Hello, everyone. Sometimes I watch some of these and I'm like, ugh. I don't know if it's the noise canceling feature, and I don't know if it's just my voice, but sometimes it'd be like real shrill. I'm like, ooh, okay. I thought this was a little bit better adjusted. That's fine. Okay, so hey, it is the 28th degree of Virgo. So let's see what we're going to get into today, shall we? I watched the Steven Universe movie. I finished Steven Universe Future. I watched the Steven Universe movie, and those they wrecked my emotions. Like I'm a sobby mess. I actually cried. I was like, oh my gosh, there's the Empress and the King of Pentacles. I actually cried, and I guess we kind of throughout the series we kind of realize how immature a certain character is, and how that character has the ability to impact, like the power of her impact is immense, but she never really understood it. And it was interesting because like she wanted to come into her power, she wanted to be recognized, but at the same time she never really stopped to think of how the other people in her experience were affected by her or her choices and decisions. Um, and it's like it was understandable because it's like I guess like if you have a certain amount of prestige or authority or a certain position, then you don't like your default isn't necessarily to think about how the people that are under you are how you impact their lives. But at the same time, I don't know. It was just like real Page of Cups, Page of Wands, Page of Pentacles, Page of Swords, and she left lots and lots and lots of messes, and hurt lots and lots and lots of people, and it was just like, oh my gosh, it was so much. It was so much. Whew. Okay, what's this? Six of Swords. And then somebody else had to come in and clean up all her messes. Because she wasn't able to do it herself. And the Five of Wands at the bottom of the deck. Now, we saw the Five of Wands yesterday. So yesterday, this was about us standing our ground. Today, it's about us moving on, right? So it is like we will have to continuously stand our ground. But who was this? The Page of Wands. Speaking of the pages, we don't have to get stuck on those heels, right? We don't have to, continuously fight on those heels. Just be like, hey, this is what it is, and I'm moving on. Okay, this is feeling good. Good Momo. Perfect. All right, let's see what comes out today. No Sabian symbols today. Not feeling them. We're just gonna go right in. Excuse me. And then she comes back and she's like, I'm the loser of the game that you didn't even know you were playing. I'm like, oh my gosh. But I mean, that was, story of his life, being the loser of games that he didn't know he was playing because of basically the karma that he inherited from his mother, who had a place of position and authority. But, and it's interesting because like her thing was that she cared. But then you find out how much she really didn't. But it was almost like it was beyond her capacity to care that deeply. And a lot of people have kids and they're like, oh, or a lot of people talk about having kids like, oh, before I had kids, I was like immature and irresponsible, and before I had kids I was this, and before I had kids I was that. And sometimes people look at children as like things that mature you, but it's like, I don't know, maybe try to do a little bit of that before you have kids, because you can end up wrecking, or not wrecking, but creating habits and patterns that your children need to break from you because of whatever. Because of things that basically you ain't clean up. And now they gotta deal with the reverberations of that. Oh, it was rough. I cried. Well, I've also been fairly emotional lately, so hey. Queen of Cups. Alright, let's get into this. One card would be so cute. Two cards is the maximum, which means that 3 or 4 cards is a no-go. So let's do this. So for on this lovely, is something happening today? Or no? Did I just make up that day in my mind, in my world? It was like 9:20. Something's happening on the 20th, right? But I don't think anything's happening today. But again, I don't know. Bottom of the deck is the 7 of Cups. So options being our limitation. In this deck, let's see if you can see it. There's a tooth among, there we go. The tooth among the bottom 6 cups, and then the 1 cup that stands above the rest. Teeth in this deck symbolize wisdom. If you don't learn from, and I talked about it, 2 days ago now? That 7-8, 7-8, 7-8 of cups until we 9-10 break the cycle. If you don't get the wisdom at the 7 of cups, then you're going to keep making those same choices and decisions that ultimately don't lead you to get any closer to where you actually want to be. You know? So, oh, this is bothering me today. What did you say about me? And then he's like, I don't even know who you are. And she's like, okay. You know what? There, it's good enough. If we don't, well, what's this? Because so the card behind it wants to show itself. Behind the 7 of Cups is the Fool. Exactly. I was gonna say she was like the Fool because she is the page of literally every element, but that's not like the good Fool. That's kind of like, well, there is no good or bad Fool. That it is the Fool. It's the Fool's journey to learn, right? And that was basically revealed to be his superpower. His superpower is change, and his ability to change and be changed by the situations and circumstances that he goes through. And it's this interesting dichotomy, excuse me, of these beings that come pre-programmed, basically complete, and the human experience of learning and growing and evolving. And his experience of being both someone who has to evolve, but who has a set of pre-programmed abilities. I love the 7 of Cups in this deck. Justice. Oh, wow. That's an interesting question. And I feel like it relates on a lot of levels right now. The sins of the forefathers. It's like, do they have to be paid? Or like how does that work? If no one consciously alive today created the systems, then, and maybe it's about not holding anyone responsible, but just correcting it. And we don't always have to have somebody to blame in order to fix a problem. Sometimes we can just fix the problem. But I think with Justice and the Seven of Cups, it's an energy of like, and what was behind the Seven of Cups? The Fool? Yeah. So it's this energy of needing someone to blame, but not having anyone who is capable of taking full responsibility for this. And I think the lesson is going to be not having someone to blame. Like, you don't need someone to blame in order to fix a problem or to correct for something that is wrong or off in your life. And that's something that I personally learned. Let me put this back here. Something that I personally began learning in like February, late February, when it came to situations where it's like, I can't blame anyone else and I can't blame myself. I just have to deal with what's in front of me. And it's led me down this path that's been interesting, but also, I don't know if difficult is the right word, but it's so natural to just like find somebody to blame. And it's not about blaming anyone. It's just about doing what needs to be done. So, 3 cards, please. 3 cards, please. Let's get that 3-step process. Ooh, the Queen of Pennies. And we saw the King of Pennies yesterday. Self-love, self-care, knowing your worth. Knowing your worth is step 1. Because if you don't know what you're worth, then how are you supposed to put anything on the scale, right? It's like, you know, 2 more, please. 2 more, please. 2 more cards, please. How do you say that in Japanese? I think matsu would be cards because it's flat. Or is it matsu? Nimatsu. How do you say more? Oh, just nimatsu. No, nimatsu. How do you say please? I should know how to say please. I know how to say it like if it were a word. Like give. Oh, ooh. Give and receive. There was a whole chapter about this. And in Japanese, if you give, like there are these different social levels. And so there's a lower social level, speaking of this girl, the lower social level, equal social level, and a higher social level. And the word that not only is the word that you use different for different levels, but the suffix that you put on it is also different. And that's giving and receiving. And morau, I think, is to receive from the same or lower. And I'm asking to receive. But I'm asking, I don't know. I can't remember give. And I know that like Tei Itadakenai de Shoka is like the most polite. And then like Moraenai is the least polite. And Kudasai. Kudasaru. Kudasai is please, I think. Yeah. So Nimatsu Kudasai. I don't know. Well, maybe that is it. Nimatsu Kudasai. Or I ain't take Japanese in a minute. I don't know why every now and then I try to like relive the glory days. Oh, they're all coming out face up today. Okay. Alright. And I think I got 3. That's fine. Bottom of the deck is the 8 of Wands. 7 of Cups and the 8 of Wands. And it's almost like as soon as you understand, as soon as you escape that 7-8 cup dance of like choosing options that you have to walk away from or choosing things that you have to mature from. And we're always growing, learning, and maturing, but there are negative sort of interactions and then there are more positive interactions, right? There's something that you can grow with, and then there are things that you have to grow from. And when we stop needing to grow from things, we can manifest things that we grow with. And also, it'll speed things up because it's like we're starting to manifest these things that we can hold, right? Instead of manifesting things that we have the Eight of Cups away from. And that accumulation attracts more accumulation because of how it affects the heart and the mind, right? When we manifest things that we can hold on to, we feel better. And we manifest more things that we hold on to. When we manifest things that we have to let go of, and this is part of the Seven of Eight of Cups dance, especially if we start falling into the blame game, then we start manifesting more and more things that we need to let go of, and manifesting more things that we need to walk away from. And then we start to adopt this mentality that like nothing lasts forever, or that all this is bad, or all that is bad, or things never work out, because we're continuously manifesting these things without seeing the wisdom behind why we're losing them in the first place. And maybe we're not seeing the wisdom because of blame. And whenever we play a blame game, it's like there's this higher opportunity to misjudge a situation. And so if you reach an incorrect verdict, then it's like a video game. You got to come and you got to do the same situation again until you get the right verdict. And if you find yourself in similar situations, then maybe shift your perspective on the situation, because there's something about the way that you're approaching it that keeps you going for more, even though you don't want it, probably. If you got to keep Eight of Cups in it, you probably don't want it. And then if things work out, you believe that things work out, you attract more things that work out, and then life is gorgeous and beautiful, even when it's not. It still is. Oh! Wow! I just tried to pop an icebreaker. It hit my top tooth, my front tooth, my right front tooth, and then it fell on the floor. And two icebreakers came out, but I put one back. And then the one that I left out ended up on the floor. Okay, so here's an icebreaker on the ground. Alright, so let's get into this. So the Page of Wands came back out. The Six of Swords came back out. And the Seven of Cups. And the Seven of Cups came out again. This Seven of Cups is interesting because there are 6 cups on the horn of this narwhal. And then there's 1 cup in its flipper. And from the 1 cup, which looks like the only cup to have any liquid in it, all of the others are sort of here. But that's the last card, so we'll get to it. We'll get to that. So justice. Justice is about not seeing things. When justice is the limitation, it's about not seeing things clearly, either being overly critical or underly critical. It's about a need to exercise wisdom in a situation and to proceed accordingly. So we're starting with the Queen of Pentacles, and first things first, I almost went into Monster by Nicki Minaj, or her verse on that song, or whatever. First things first, you have to realize your self-worth. And you also have to realize that not every situation is reflective of your true self-worth. I think sometimes we get deceived into thinking that we're only worth so much because of what we attract or because of what our experiences are. But it's kind of unfair because it seems like experientially we have the experiences first and then we adopt the mindset, and from that mindset we continue to attract the same experiences. And so you could understand why one would think that everything is a certain way, because it was that way before we came into the because like we never had a knowing of anything otherwise. But in some weird way it's like that, like it doesn't matter who started the fire type of energy. It only matters that we put it out. And so you can find someone to blame and you can hold the correct person accountable, but the fire still needs to be addressed. And the damage from the fire still needs to be addressed. And it's like blaming someone creates this almost false sense of not justice, but it creates this false sense of like nothing is actually done when you blame somebody. Nothing is actually done in the justice system to remedy or to fix what has been broken, right? It's like not all the times, because sometimes, but it's like there needs to be multiple sort of aspects, right? Because if you find someone to hold accountable and they did it, great, but you still have to fix what was broken or replace what was lost, and not everything that was broken or lost can be fixed or replaced. But it's about more than just finding the right person to blame. 'Cause you got to do something, right? It doesn't matter who started the fire. What what takes primary precedence is evacuating. Oh my gosh! Oh, sorry. Oh, that was so gross. 1 second, I'm gonna find this. I'm struggling to find it. That's why I turned the camera off, and I don't want this icebreaker that fell out of my mouth to just be on the. Ew! It fell on top of the Six of Swords. Oh my gosh, that's never happened. For some reason, I can't keep these icebreakers in my mouth today, but that's fine. The first one hit my tooth and then fell on the floor, and the second one, I almost finished it too, and then it just slipped right out my mouth. Oh my gosh, I'm a mess today or something. I honestly want to go back to sleep, but I'm not going to because I need to get serious about doing stuff today. And I've been enjoying sleep, so trying to sleep more than what I need to instead of sleeping when I need to or when I feel led to. I just love bundling up under covers and it's starting to get cold outside. Okay, so back to this. It's like before we start pointing fingers, it's like, can we evacuate the building? Can we make sure that everyone is out and safe? And then we can find out who's responsible and we can hold them accountable. And then we can begin rebuilding. We need to take care of the people who don't have anywhere to go because the building burned down. Like there are other things to do rather than just finding the correct person to blame. And I think that's what one of these major limitations with these Seven of Cups experiences is. Like we're not getting the fullness of the wisdom that we need to get out of those experiences. And so when we Eight of Cups, we end up Eight of Cupsing one bad cup to go to another bad cup, instead of Eight of Cupsing to go to a space of self-love. Now, next is the Page of Wands and the Six of Swords. And sometimes with the Six of Swords, if there's a fork in the river, we can only see what we can see from that fork. And it's another thing in life. where we make the best decision that we can in the moment. Sometimes we make the best decision, sometimes we intentionally make not great decisions. When we're trying to make a good decision, we make the best decision that we can in the moment without understanding how they will fully unwrap and unravel, right? Let's say that you have a higher paying job and a lower paying job, and the lower paying job is in an area that you like, but the higher paying job is in an area that you don't like. Or let's flip this around. Let's say the higher paying job is in an area that you like, and the lower paying job is in an area that you don't like. And so obviously you take the higher paying job that you actually like. Turns out that work environment is toxic. And one of the reasons why they pay people so much is to keep people working that job. It's one of those types of jobs where it's like the money is too good to quit. Like, oh, I'm not going to find another job in this area that pays this much, so I have to stay here. And initially, it was something that you liked until you meet your coworkers, until you meet your boss, and then you don't even know if you like this anymore because the people have made that experience so sour that it starts to taint your taste on that original thing. Whereas if you would have taken the lower paying job where it wasn't necessarily something that you liked, you would have discovered a new passion. You would have discovered coworkers that you actually like, absolutely love, going to a job that you love to work at, building. You could have experienced growth. You could have moved up the chain. You could have met someone there, and maybe you go into business with each other, and then you end up in the space that you were supposed to be. There's this thing about the fork in the river where we only see what's right in front of us. And more often than not, we make the choice that makes the most sense in that moment. But if you have an opportunity to establish a relationship or to build upon your intuition to the point where it becomes like really discernment, or, if you just like take a moment to pray on it, or to be like, I don't know, whoever you believe in, be like, is this it? Like, I know that it's more money and I know it's an area that I'm interested in, but is this still the opportunity? And you might get a no. And that no might confuse you, but you might decide to Page of Wands it anyway and do what you want to do. And then you find out why the answer was no. But at least your bank account is a little fatter, question mark. Sometimes, because sometimes you get a higher paying job, you elevate your standard of living, you end up quitting, but now you're used to more, so you have to maintain that. A lot of people can't go from more to less and be okay with that. Or it's like you quit that job and then you get a job that pays less, and it's like your lifestyle doesn't change to reflect that. It's like our lifestyle changes when we make more money real easy, but when we make less money, and understandably so, it's harder to adapt to that. And so now it becomes this thing that you have to maintain. When in reality, it might not have even been something that it may not even be something that you want. But it's something that you've gotten comfortable with and something that you've grown to expect. And because that's your expectation, or because that's the precedent that you set for yourself, it makes it harder to go for these things that actually align with you. And that can also be justice. Justice, in the Seven of Cups is also choosing options that align with your highest good and your greatest potential. It's also the blame game. And then in this Seven of Cups, it's interesting because we have this one cup that has water. This one cup has so much water, it can fill all 6 of these and then some. But also, an interesting thing to note is, in some ways, none of these 6 cups can hold any water because they've been pierced by the narwhal's horn. And so if you take them off of the horn, if you choose one of these options off of the rack, it's not going to hold any water. And actually, it will hold water. It'll hold like that much. Because you can see that, like, The bottom third of the cup is good, but as soon as you hit that bottom third, that's when the water will start to pour out, right? Because I mean, it ain't pierced at the very bottom, so it'll hold a little bit of water, but it's not gonna hold much. And then you have this seventh cup completely off to the side, completely off of that whole. Because you can also see the water forms this cycle around here, completely out of that cycle, unpierced, and apparently has the capability to hold a lot more water than you'd even think, because there's a lot of water coming out of that cup. And it's like that's the type of option that it's leading you to. But if you only, and it goes back to this in some ways, it's like if you're used to having these cups that hold a lot less water than what you would think because of, and like nobody's perfect, but because of how they've been punctured and pierced and bruised and beaten up, it becomes what you're used to. It becomes your standard. It becomes your norm. It becomes the definition for the quality of your life, regardless of if that's true or not, regardless of if it actually aligns with you or not. And it doesn't, because Seven of Cups and Justice is literally the limitation. So we know that this isn't it. But when that's your experiences, it makes it understandably easy to think that that's all there is to offer, or that's all that life has to offer you. And then it's like we don't even know what to do with situations or people that have an actual capacity to fulfill us well beyond the drops of water that we were getting before. And it creates this sort of like, it's like this tower that like snaps in and it instantly polarizes the mind. And it's like it's this process of relaxing the mind and the heart into being like, oh, like I'm actually worthy of this. I'm actually like, this is what I actually deserve. And then you stop running from it, and then you start to taste the sweetness of its water. But it also reminds me of like the stomach and how the stomach can shrink if like you're not eating a lot or something. And it's like your body, how your body will acclimate to the conditions and the environment that it's in. And again, it's like even though you're worth so much more than this, since you haven't experienced the more, it's like you're operating with a limited capacity. And over time, that capacity has to increase until you get to the point where you are fully within the realm of your intended blessing. But it's because humans have to readapt and readjust once they've gotten familiar with a certain set of circumstances. So this will be the actual card that I read. Um, and it's the well, I thought it's the Five of Pentacles. And I feel like the Five of Pentacles is the fear that nothing will come. Right? I feel like it's like, okay, that's fine and dandy. Like you say that I'm worth more than what I'm getting, and I know that. But I'm not getting what I'm worth more than. And I don't want to be out here out in the cold all alone. It's better to be in a toxic home than it is to be alone. And it's like, really? is that true? It hasn't been my experience, but I'm not wired that way at the same time. I'd much rather be alone than be surrounded by people that I don't like or that I don't care for, or to be surrounded by people that only belittle me and don't encourage and support me. It's like myself Like my inner saboteur, the part of me that self-sabotages, like I can do a good enough job of being down on myself and being hyperly critical of myself. I don't need anybody in my environment to do that. And I'm also pretty good at encouraging myself too. So I'm going to choose to align with people who also encourage me on the outside. And if you can't give me that, I'm good. I'm not desiring anything else. I don't like, I don't do frenemies. I don't do stuff like that. Cause it's like, why? Like, why? What? I don't know. I don't know. It's just like, I'm not a fan. I don't need that. Like, no thanks. I'm good. You can keep that. But also, I feel like I said, I believe yesterday, or maybe it was in the tests when it came to the multiple choice part and going into the true or false. It's like sometimes you really just have to stand in your word and just be like, you know what? You're not giving me anything that I can build with. This relationship is not mutually beneficial or symbiotic. All you do is take or like throw all this negativity on everything. It's like, I'm good. I don't need that. And I will wait until I get something in my experience that is worthy of me. Like all these punctured cups, I'm good. I'm done with punctured cups. I'm clumsy enough. I got lots of broken glass, and you know what I did with them? I throw them away. Not to say that people are things that we throw away, but at the same time, we have the right to choose the type of people and the people in our experience. And sometimes we choose people that align with us. Sometimes we choose people that don't align with us. Seven of Cups and Justice. Oh, look, 5, 6, 7. 5, 6, 7. And they're different suits. So the Eight of Wands is at the bottom of the deck. And the Eight of Wands is at the bottom of the deck. Oh my gosh. 5, 6, 7, 8. Pentacles, swords, water, wands. Why did I say water? Pentacles, swords, cups, wands. 5, 6, 7, 8. In different suits. The Six of Swords and the Eight of Wands. That's two cards of movement. But you got to be willing to hold space for the things that are truly meant for you and to walk away from the things that aren't. And sometimes it's like we make these choices and decisions because it's like, well, it's either this or nothing, and I'd rather have this than nothing, but sometimes nothing is better than this or that or the other thing. And when you hold space, it keeps that space uncluttered for the thing to come in. And that's another thing about the Six of Swords energy. It's like it's smoothing the roads, it's calming the seas for your ships to come to you. Right? If your harbor is full, if the lighthouse is out or down, and if it's super stormy, then how are any of those ships supposed to come and dock? Like, oh, the harbor is full, so I guess we'll wait until one of these boats leave. And they never do because they're stuck on the horn of this narwhal. They're always going to be there until the narwhal takes them off of the horn. And I don't even think that narwhal can reach all the way up there. So, you know, that's when the divine will come in and help you. But if you keep sticking other cups on your horn when the divine takes one off, then it's like you can see how no real progress is made. If the lighthouse is down, then they're like, oh, it's too dark and we don't want to risk running aground, so we'll wait until the daytime, and then when we can see, we'll go in. And if it's too stormy, then they probably ain't getting there either. So, Five of Pentacles. Certainly not a basket of rose petals. The Five of Pentacles is the hallmark card that says, sorry about your financial problems and or the general feeling of pervasive scarcity. The real message here is that it's time for you to take your eyes off your empty wallet and reconnect to the richness of non-material things. You'll soon remember that loving relationships don't cost a thing, except when you have to take them to Disneyland. Gulp. And human existence is full of tiny things to be grateful for, like garage sales, where you could probably earn $10 for that empty wallet. The affirmation here is, I am rich in love and adventures, which bring me a never-ending stream of spiritual wealth. Let me know if you want to buy some precious memories. Okay. So it's basically saying to like look for the look for the rainbow, look for the sunshine after the storm. And when it is storming, find the silver lining. And if you can't see the silver lining in the storm, sometimes it's like it has a beauty of its own. And you still have memories. The Six of Cups didn't come out, so I would say it's safe to not get lost in the memory. But more than getting lost in the memory, I'd say like just know that good times still lie ahead. And it's like life always has the potential to get better, just as it always has the potential to get worse. And a lot of times it's the thing that you align to that determines what you get. And it is that. And we can talk about it spiritually and about like the law of attraction and manifestation and stuff like that. Or like psychologically, optimistic people tend to focus more on attaining a solution, and they minimize the problems and they dedicate all of their energy towards finding a solution and towards navigating to that brighter space. Pessimistic people will focus on the negative, will blow it out of proportion, and not only will they do that, they will actively not choose or pursue the things that actually get them out of the space that they're in. And so it's like sometimes quite literally you're only focused on the bad, so you're under prioritizing, under appreciating the good, and not only are you under appreciating the good, you're not even allowing yourself to take the good because it's just gonna fail anyway. It's just gonna flop anyway. I always get these opportunities and then it turns into nothing, and then I'm just more disappointed, so I'm just gonna stay in this space and bleh. Right? So yeah, there is the spiritual thing that, is legit and makes sense, but also mentally, emotionally, that's the space that people keep themselves in. Like it all works together. And the Eight of Wands is like right here. As soon as you, I don't know. It honestly feels like it's time to stop blaming and time to start actually doing something. It doesn't matter who started the fire. It only matters that we put it out. It doesn't matter if it was intentional or accidental. We still have to evacuate the building. We still got to put out the fire. We still got to find somewhere for these folks to go until, their homes are rebuilt or reestablished. If you got insurance, you still got to contact the insurance people. Like, there are things that we have to do rather than prosecute the person responsible. And sometimes we get so focused on blaming somebody that we don't even care if we got the right person or not. Because you just need somebody to blame. Oof, Virgo season. These are not lightening up at all. Oof. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised because we're about to go into Libra season, and Libra is justice. Libra is also the Empress, justice and the Empress. So, it's about creating the things that are in alignment with you. It's like how some folks complain about their kids, but then when you look at how they raise their kids, or not even them, it's like people complain about kids, but the kids got to be raised by somebody. And it can't be the teachers because the teachers got to teach. And it's like you listen to some things and it's like some parents are really expecting teachers to like raise their kids. And it's like, well, the teachers take care of the educational stuff and maybe more of the social stuff. You take care of the at home stuff. It's this partnership between the two of you that pour into these individuals and make them or give them the opportunity to become more and more fully realized in who they are instead of a product of their environment and circumstances. But I mean, we could also argue that with the way the economy has been, especially depending on the level of education or the level of work, some people are working multiple jobs just to make ends meet, and so they don't have the time really to pour into their kids. And it's this whole system that it's like it keeps people so ragged and tired that they're too busy to actually elevate themselves. And for the people who aren't ragged and tired, they're too comfortable to do anything, most of them, to change the system. It's like, oh, well, I'm good up here, so, oh, what's wrong with the system? System's fine to me. Look at everything I have. The system's lovely. And then they want to be like taking their mission trips to Africa and Cambodia and to all of these other places, but ain't even doing nothing at home. But yeah, when you take those mission trips, it's all about, converting people. And I'm not saying that there's, winning souls or whatever is inherently wrong, but I don't know. It just seemed like you should take care of the needs of people without having the requirement be, oh, you must, adopt my faith. Because, I mean, like, a certain part of that faith is about helping people in need regardless. Like, I don't know. It's those Hierophant games where it's not actually about the people. It's about the number. And when it's actually about the people, the impact is much deeper. When it's about the number, it's I don't know. The card that came out is the Eight of Cups. And we just had the Seven of Cups at the bottom of the deck. So not walking away can also be a thing. And the Nine of Wands is at the bottom of the deck. So it reads as like choosing to fight for certain things that aren't worthy of being fought for. Like, you can't be the only person fighting. People also have to fight for themselves. Corporations also have to fight for themselves. It ain't enough for corporations to hire like 5 minorities and be like, oh, see, hey, like, we're inclusive. But then those minorities are having like terrible experiences in the workplace. Right? It's more than just hiring people. It's more than just bringing people into your experience. It also involves that element of growth and change. And so many people or companies try to like tout the number of, minorities they hire and different groups of people that they hire. But when you look at their policies and when you look at like the HR records and like the experiences of those minorities, the pay of those minorities, is it equal? Is it fair? Is it great? Or is it just about the number? And once you get the number, you think you're resolved with everything, so you don't actually have to change. It's very superficial and very surface level. And it's like, that's not justice. That's not the full delivery of justice, right? That's like when people do terrible things, but they get off easy because of whatever. And it's like, okay, you went through the justice system and you got a slap on the wrist when you should have at least gotten, I don't know, right on the chalkboard 10 times, I ain't gonna do this no more. But if all you get is a slap on the wrist, you shed some tears, and then you go on and you do the same thing over again, knowing that nothing's going to happen to you. And then you see videos sometimes of people like, oh, this can't happen to me. I'm this, I'm that. Like, this doesn't happen to me. It's the whole thing is busted. But that's what happens when, everything is selective instead of more absolute. And it was never intended to be absolute. If it were intended to be absolute, it would be. Ooh, Judgment and the Queen of Pentacles. Okay. Anyway, it's time for more than just surface level changes. Justice runs deeper than that. Oh, that was quick. Oh, the Three of Swords. We saw you yesterday. Bottom of the deck is it's the Chariot. I was going to say the Two of Cups. Bottom of the deck is the Chariot. This is about actual forward progression and movement on both the superficial level and like below the surface, right? It's like moving the whole iceberg and not just shifting the iceberg so it looks like the tip of the iceberg is moved from here to here when under the water everything is the exact same. Three of Swords and the Three of Cups. Ooh, two threes. Swords, Cups, and the Chariot. I think the Three of Swords and Three of Cups with the Chariot at the bottom of the deck is telling us that sometimes sometimes we can forgive a situation and move forward with it. Sometimes we can forgive a situation and leave it in the past. Right? Two of these swords have water coming out. One of them doesn't. Then we got the Three Cups on the hill. And Judgment and the Queen of Pentacles is how you know. Right? Does this speak to my self-worth or no? Is this a situation that like values me or no? Is there even a capacity or a capability for this space to accommodate me? Because if not, then hey, we might just have to cry our tears and keep it on moving. I don't know. It's about more than just surface level stuff. And we're coming into Libra season, which is justice. And after justice, after Libra season is Scorpio season. So I don't want to say like death penalty, but we go from that. So we go from justice. So we go from Virgo, which is cleaning everything up, right? Then there's the evaluation at Libra season to see whether or not it's cleaned up sufficiently or whether it needs more time or whether it needs to be cut off. Scorpio comes in, which is the death transformation. And when done properly, we get into Sagittarius season, which is the freedom after the transformation. It's the rebirth. It's the loosening of all of that. It's the cutting of the chains and the horse is finally running free, right? And then we come into Capricorn, which is about doing something to establish and maintain that, moving forward into Aquarius, which is super humanitarian and it's about the future, right? And so Capricorn comes after Sagittarius to be like, okay, horses, it's great that y'all are running around free, but let's come up with some laws to actually protect horses so that y'all don't end up in the same mess, right? Let's come up with some kind of system to ensure that this doesn't happen again. And then after Aquarius, we come into the Pisces dream. And it's the end of that cycle completely. The cycle that ended with Scorpio in that death and transformation. But also, it's like we had to do things after it ended. Just ending it wasn't enough. And it's that initial wave of release. And that's the danger of that 7-8 of Cups dance. Because we'll 8 of Cups cut it off and we'll feel great. We'll feel amazing. We'll be going out, living our lives like, yeah, woo, Sagittarian energy, baby. And then we don't do anything to ground that. We don't do anything to build off of that. We don't do anything to ensure that that freedom stretches into the future and beyond. And so we end up with another 7 of Cups. And it's like, wow, like what happened? Like I was just so good. Like I was just flying so high. Like what happened? You 7 of Cups again, and now you're gonna 7-8, 7-8, 7-8 until you 9-10 and break free. Maybe that's why the 9 is the key to getting out of that 7-8. So we have the 1-2 where the 3 breaks, the 4-5 where the 6 breaks, and then the 7-8 where the 9 breaks. Okay, well that's what I got today. I will pull one of these because you know we could use it. I don't know. It's like I would love to just be like lighter. But honestly, it's getting to that point where things actually have to change. Because it's like things don't get this bad for change to not happen and then things just go away. It's like, no. When you don't address it, it gets worse. And that's what people have been saying this whole time. If we don't address this, it's just going to get worse. But a lot of people were more focused on getting back to the escape. To the point where, we're not actually addressing anything. And maybe it won't get worse. Maybe we'll have addressed it enough internally that externally it cannot get worse. Excuse me. Oh, well. Alright. So let's get one of these, please. To end this off. One of these, please. One of these, please. Can I get one of these, please? Oh, that's a whole bunch. I'll say one. Can I get one? Or 2, or like 3 at the most, but I gotta read these, so, like 1 or 2 would be fine. Okay. Sure. That's like 3. So, we have this full moon that says, the presence of love will always cast out fear. Bottom of the deck says, my faith has the power to turn trauma into healing, conflict into growth, and fear into love. And then the presence of love will always cast out fear. The desire to heal will always root out trauma. And the attitude for growth will always resolve conflict. Boom. Thank you. I mean, I did cheat. I used this card to fix the other ones. Not to fix, but to expand on the other ones. But, we'll see. Oh, I've been seeing this one a lot lately. A lot lately. And I never used to see this one so much. I let go of the shadow of the past by seeing something for the first time with the eyes of love. And when I focus on my inner light, I see the world through the lens of love. And it almost reminds me of the message on that 5 of Pentacles, when it was talking about how life is full of these little things to be grateful for, and how, physically we do need stability and like food and shelter and stuff like that, but we also have needs that can't be met with money or with things. And, it's all things in balance. So that's what I got. I hope you have a good whatever whenever you see this, and I hope you're acting in alignment to make the good better, the better great, the great wonderful, the wonderful amazing, the amazing fantastic, and the fantastic miraculous. Because for those who believe and align and to miracles, miraculous things happen. Quite literally.